Hey there, it's Kate from Prenursing Smarter, and today I'm going to do some TEAS Anatomy and Physiology flashcards. I'm in my Anatomy and Physiology flashcard section, and I have printable, downloadable flashcards for every body system that you might see on the TEAS Science section. Today I thought I would go through some for the neuromuscular system. We'll review key terms and definitions. Let's talk about these flashcards. The central nervous system, or CNS, consists of the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system consists of the sensory and motor neurons that connect the central nervous system to the rest of the body. So your central nervous system is your brain and your spinal cords, and the peripheral nervous system is basically everything else. Afferent neurons are sensory neurons. They are nerve cells that carry impulses toward the central nervous system. Big thing to remember for the TEAS Science section, afferent neurons are sensory neurons. On the other hand, efferent neurons are motor neurons. They are nerve cells that conduct impulses away from the central nervous system. So two big distinctions to know for the TEAS Science section. Afferent neurons, sensory neurons that carry impulses towards the central nervous system. And efferent neurons are motor neurons that carry impulses away from the central nervous system. Name the two types of efferent neurons. The first is somatic, which are voluntary motor neurons, and the second are autonomic nerves, which are involuntary motor neurons. The somatic nervous system is the division of the peripheral nervous system that controls the body's skeletal muscles. Name two divisions of the autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Let's talk about those. The sympathetic nervous system is the division of the autonomic nervous system that responds to stressful situations. It's also called your fight or flight response. Parasympathetic nervous system is the division of the autonomic nervous system that calms the body, conserving its energy. This is also called the rest and digest response. Now we're going to get into some neuron anatomy, talking about the different parts of a neuron. Axon. An axon is the extension of the neuron ending in branching fibers. It sends electrical messages to other neurons, muscles, or glands. The dendrite is a branch-like part of the neuron, and it's specialized in receiving chemical information. As you study these flashcards, pay attention to what is sending or receiving electrical messages and what is sending or receiving chemical messages. Myelin sheath is a fatty cover of the axon to help speed neural impulses. Not all axons have myelin sheaths. Synapse. Synapse is the junction between the axon tip of the sending neuron and the dendrite or cell body of the receiving neuron. Neurotransmitters. Chemical messengers that cross the synaptic gaps between neurons. Acetylcholine. A neurotransmitter that is released by neurons at the neuromuscular junction. Acetylcholine is the most important neurotransmitter to know for the TEAS Science section. Neuromuscular junction. This is the gap between the motor neuron and skeletal muscle cells. Myofibrils. These are joined together sarcomere units. They're threads in striated muscle cells. Let's talk about some important points about muscles in general for the TEAS Science section. All muscles are connected to a nerve or nerves. Muscles can be voluntary or involuntary. They have fibrous tissue, and it's about half the weight of a human body. Voluntary muscles are under conscious control. These are skeletal muscles, like the muscles of your arms and legs. Involuntary muscles are not under conscious control. These are smooth and cardiac muscles. These are the muscles that you don't want to have to think about, like controlling your blood pressure, controlling your digestion, controlling your heartbeat. Sarcomere unit. It's the functional unit of a muscle, specifically a striated muscle. When we talk about functional units for the TEAS science section, it's really important to know that you might need to know what are functional units for several body systems. In the respiratory system, for example, the functional unit is the alveoli. For the genitourinary system and the kidneys, the functional unit is the nephron. The TEAS might ask you directly about identifying functional units of different body systems. Myosin, it's a protein in muscle fibers that aids in contraction and makes up the majority of a muscle fiber. Actin is the thin protein fiber of muscle. Muscle contraction. These are interactions between actin and myosin filaments of the sarcomere unit that produce movement. For the TEAS science section, you may have a question where you're asked to generally apply this concept of a muscle contraction. It probably won't get in depth as some of your college anatomy and physiology classes, but it's good to know the general principles here. ATP is adenine triphosphate. It's a chemical used as energy in the body to make muscles move. A contraction is muscle movement. It can be tension in the muscle or shortening of the muscle. Relaxation of muscle is when myosin and actin are not attached. Let's go over some important points for the TEAS science section about skeletal muscle tissue. 1, you need to know that contraction and relaxation are terms to describe skeletal muscle tissue action. This tissue is striated, it's under voluntary control, and it's found attached to bones via tendons. Some important points about cardiac muscle tissue for the TEAS science section. Systole and diastole are terms to describe the action of these cardiac muscles. So that's the lub-dub, or your heart pumping. They are also striated. They're very muscular. Your heart is a very strong and muscular organ. It responds to electrical impulses from the sinoatrial node. So sinoatrial node is an overlap point between the neuromuscular system and the cardiovascular system. Smooth muscle tissue. Peristalsis is muscle action of smooth muscle tissue. It's non-striated. It's non-voluntary, so you don't control it. It's found in hollow organs, so your intestines, for example, and this is the weakest type of muscle. A reflex is a simple, automatic, inborn response to sensory stimulus, such as the knee-jerk response. A reflex arc is often used in a survival response. The message only travels to the spinal cord, not to the brain, in order to produce a response. It is part of the somatic nervous system. Skeletal muscle pairs. Skeletal muscles are often paired. One relaxes and the other contracts to move bone. Terms to know for this would be the prime mover and the antagonist. The prime mover is the contracting or moving muscle. The antagonist is the relaxed or not moving muscle. And that is it for these flashcards. I hope this helped you. Get familiar with these terms. You need to know these definitions inside and out. All of these anatomy and physiology flashcards are available in my program to help you succeed on the TEAS. Keep up the great work with your TEAS prep. If you'd like to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments. Take care.